Okay, so I wasn't really sure how to approach this, so I'm going to give it my best shot. So we have civil service institutions which are already established and which ideas which are fermented, you know, at the hothouse that was the LSE in the 40s. They shape these institutions. Now, just because those ideas shaped them from the top, that's not the only pressure, because the rule of law is coming up from the bottom. Now, one of the interesting things that you realise is really, really rigid when you come into contact with elite cultures, which is really shocking to someone like me who's always worked on the ground where centrally planned institutions and local authorities meet around real lives, is to find out that the way that elite policymakers view local authorities and centrally planned institutions is almost like they're in competition with each other, and that's just not the case at all. So the rule of law has evolved within civil service institutions, and then, as Hayek said it would, kind of in local authorities, the rule of law has evolved around power dynamics and child abuse, and both of these institutions, types of institutions, have been shaped by the same shifts. So when Margaret Thatcher was keeping an eye, because she wasn't expecting the changing family structure that my mother's generation signified, so even though this changing family structure had started, you know, way before the 20th century did, she had started noticing in kind of the 60s that child welfare budgets and cash transfer budgets, the two, were going up at the same time. And you can see that in her memoirs. She mentions it a couple of times, because this is actually a real concern to her. She was genuinely shocked by this. So she knows that they're developing together, but she doesn't kind of know it. And this is something that is not understood at a policy-making level. And so within local authorities, these duties come up from the ground. So what local authorities do is I'm trying to think, the changes to family structure resulted in some very major changes to the way we run the country. So we have laws and systems that now reflect power dynamics and abusive dynamics that used to be contained within the family unit. We have systems where women can leave abuse, and we also now have a legal requirement that women leave abuse. So since 2005 it's been illegal. You can't stay in a house where your kids are being abused and when you're being abused, because, you know, you'll be done for failing to protect them. So the state doesn't give women an option about staying. This isn't like we want the right to leave, we're now obligated to. And all these institutions have been shaped by this shift in symbiosis. And you can see this just by looking at the laws. And I had a conversation at the LSE with somebody, and I said, well, duties to children are automatically implied by child benefit. No. Yes, I said, every child covered by child benefit, there will also be duties to those children under the Children Act. These systems are linked, but that's not reflected in the literature. I said, I know it's not reflected in the literature, but it's the bloody law. And they don't know, because they can't see what's in the literature. And in the literature, they've got bullshit welfare economics, which is a statistical mirror that they use, so that every time spending comes up that they can't account for, they just kind of project some dysfunction onto women like me, and then lash out at us in policy and try and strip back the capacities to care from institutions and try and, you know, and demonise us. But underneath, these institutions have evolved in symbiosis, and we should have known this. We should have known that now that we have, you know, responsibilities that can't be abdicated, that during these periods this will happen, but we don't. And there are many responsibilities. So we've got the laws that protect from violence, we've got the systems that allow us to outsource care labour. We can't outsource the relationship, but we do need to outsource care labour so that we can participate in the market economy. That still needs to be done. We have to have regulation of those care providers. The state is a care provider. And we actually have to have these systems which connect paid and unpaid spheres, the family with the state, with the market. And this is, you know, it requires understanding how different institutions function. And we don't know that at present at all. And so we have centrally planned institutions where the rule of law has developed within them. We have local authorities where the rule of law has emerged from the ground up. And we have a belief system where they can only see theoretical models, and these bullshit I identify as disciplines. And what you see with TERF is kind of the way that political crises are then generated to expose that rule of law. Now, that's kind of what I want to discuss in the rest of this playlist. So, the failure of local authorities is pretty much underway by now, I think. But they don't shut down like factories. They just generate crisis, political crisis, because they're not meeting the rule of law, and that's the state that we're at the moment. And it'll come unpredictably. Crisis can metastasize. They can be big. They can be small. You don't know whether, like, honestly, we're at a stage of crisis where it could all be resolved by, you know, the Tories and some good people in Labour getting together and saying we need to actually really think about how these institutions function and we need to stop being dicks. You know, or this crisis could get, you know, to historical proportions, because the only reflex at the minute we've got is that one triggered by the welfare economics, which is to blame women like me. And that's being manifested when I'm in social relations with these people. It's not safe for me to go near elite cultures at all. It's not safe for me to fucking live at home in a country where elite cultures are, apparently. But what the fuck are you going to do about that? So the crisis that we're in is going to expose a tension between centrally planned institutions and local authorities that's not actually a tension. And it's going to bring clarity over that relationship, and at the minute there is none. So I'm going to look back at this video, as I have with the others. I'm going to upload it, and then if I decide it's gobbledygook, I'll take it down, probably.